Well, let's find out what our next guest had to eat yesterday. Joining us now is the good Dr. Senator Bob Onder from St. Charles County. Bob, hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
I sure did, Tim. Had some great turkey, lots of tryptophan.
Great. So, Bob, I know you're a big hunter. We talked about that the other day. How I'm a big golfer, you're a big hunter, and our wives wouldn't put up with us doing any more than the one hobby we've chosen. So you hunt and I golf. So, but
heaven knows you don't have time to do both.
Yes. So, do you when you successfully harvest a deer, do you do the whole? Do you do the venison and the sausage and all that? Do you have that processed?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I always have it processed. Sometimes I get sausage. Sometimes I process my own deer start to finish, but that's pretty time consuming.
Wow.
Yeah. So this weekend is actually a second youth hunt season, but I haven't been in the woods yet with the kids. I've actually been hunkered down working on some bills for session.
Okay. Well, let's dive right into that, Bob. So I was talking with somebody I think you know as well. Patrick Toohey was on earlier from the Show Me Institute, and he's excited about the tsunami that washed across the country, and Missouri was not spared, thank goodness. And Bob, for the first time, isn't this? You and I have been in politics now for quite a while, and we haven't seen this in a long time, have we? What opportunity is now before us?
We haven't. Of course, you and I served together in the Missouri House, but we just barely had a majority at that time, and we did have a Republican governor, but not a large enough majority to get some of the things that Missouri really needs to get done.
So Bob,
I think we'll be doing them.
Well, you're in leadership in the Senate. You're the assistant majority leader in the Missouri Senate, and so you're at the leadership table, and you're engaged in a lot of conversations. And you were an early supporter of Governor-elect Greitens after the primary. You were a staunch advocate for him, and hey, I'm glad that paid off. I know you're excited. So as you're talking with folks, as you're talking to leadership, as you're talking to the governor's office, what? I know it's always hard to state specifics, but if you Bob Onder were in charge of the agenda, what's the things you'd like to see in the first 100 days the legislature work on?
Well, I think we could summarize it in three ways: labor reform, tort reform, and education reform. We absolutely need to become a right-to-work state, and also reform things in the area of public sector unions. The Commonwealth Foundation, looking at public sector union laws around the country, gives Missouri a D because our laws neither protect the public workers or the taxpayers. We need to do tort reform. The American Tort Reform Association rates Missouri as the fourth worst judicial hellhole in the country, is the way they put it. And we need to do education reform. We need to break the stranglehold of the teachers' unions on our education system, and give kids of all degrees of affluence, no matter what their zip code, no matter what their parents' income is, a chance to get a great education. So I think we're ready to tackle these things. All three of those are things that Governor-elect Greitens has pledged to do. And I think this is a historic opportunity to do what's right by the people of Missouri.
Talking to Senator Bob Onder from St. Charles County, and he is the assistant majority leader in the Missouri Senate. And Bob, yes, isn't it true that, on the one hand, Missouri does have a lot of things going for it, a balanced budget that is truly balanced every year, a AAA credit rating. We're strategically located by geography and by transportation routes. But Bob, it seems to me, my argument to people is, we do nothing with those wonderful tools. We do nothing with that toolbox. And when you look at, you just cited several studies that liberals can't argue with because they're true. And the other ones we hear about are that we're 47th in GDP growth, and we've been stuck there forever. We're near the bottom of the country as far as education reform and on our actual education results, which is more important than just throwing more money at the problem. That we rank, I think, 50th for welfare reform. There's so much entitlement reform that can be done. So, Bob, isn't it time to do big, bold things like we haven't done since Matt Blunt was governor?
Well, that's right. That's right. In the area of entitlement reform, we were 50th in entitlement reform. It was in 1993 that Bill Clinton held up the Republican welfare reform bill and said, today we end welfare as we know it. 1993. You know when Missouri did welfare reform? 2015. Senator Sater's bill
Yes.
passed in 2015. And we could have done more, and I think we need to tackle welfare reform again. But that's right. We're 47th out of 50 in economic growth. We're 42nd out of 50 in job growth. We're 35th out of 50 in income growth. We could do so much better. And one of those things we can do better and that we're going to tackle right away is Missouri becoming the 27th freedom to work state. The states in the Midwest that have become right to work or freedom to work are eating our lunch economically. 5 times the wage growth in Midwest right to work states as in Missouri.
Yeah, Bob, and that's I want to stop you right there. That's an interesting stat because we always hear the mantra from the other side that you're going to have lower wages, but the problem is, number one, that's not true because they never take cost of living into the effect. And what does it matter what your wage is if you don't have jobs? If you don't have the jobs to pay the wage, then whatever the wage may be is completely irrelevant if there's no job to pay that wage.
Absolutely. If you don't have a job, your wage is
zero.
And you're dependent on welfare programs. And sometimes I think that's what the liberals and the Democrats want. They want more people to be dependent on government programs so that they'll vote Democrat. But no, we can do so much better. And Governor-elect Greitens is committed to turning Missouri around. And heaven knows we in the Missouri House and Missouri Senate are committed to do the right thing.
Bob, one more question on the state level. Then I want to ask you a little bit about, I know you watch federal issues as well very closely, especially nowadays because they have so much impact on the state. But before I get to that, another thing that I think is going to really be in vogue this year as finally a Republican is going to be in charge of the budget on the executive level. You saw Governor Nixon play shell games with that budget. And, hey, look no further than former State Rep Chris Kelly, Democrat from Boone County, former budget chairman when the minority was in control. He was one of Jay Nixon's chiefest critics on the games that Governor Nixon played with the budget. Are you excited that a Republican will be in the governor's mansion and will work with the legislature on the budget? Because there's so much waste in our spending, isn't there? I mean, we can't do anything on tax cuts until we get the budget under control first and really don't have an executive that's constantly playing games with it.
Well, that's absolutely right, Tim. Year after year, Jay Nixon would withhold money from programs that the legislature appropriated money to, and then spend money like crazy, and then request supplementals at the end of the year to pay our bills. It was utterly ridiculous, and I do like Chris Kelly. He and I don't agree on many things, but we do agree that Governor Jay Nixon was playing some really unconscionable games with our budget and with the taxpayers' money. But yes, we really, and I know Governor-elect Greitens' transition team is hard at work right now, balancing a budget. Jay Nixon is probably going to leave Eric Greitens with a $100 to $200 million budget hole, and he's got to get to work on that. But this will be good. You're right. We can only reduce taxes when we reduce the size of government and balance the budget. Speaking
to Senator Bob Onder, who is the Assistant Majority Leader of the Missouri State Senate, Doc, you're a practicing physician as well, and you have had to live now under this thing called Obamacare for several years. And everybody in D.C. is now scratching their heads going, okay, we've got the power now. What the heck do we do with it? The problem is, like with every entitlement, people are going to yell and scream when you take it away. And so Donald Trump has got to be cautious now with unwinding this thing because a lot of people are going to freak out. The liberals are already freaking out. So if Donald Trump called you up today, tomorrow, and said, hey, Bob Onder, you're a smart guy, you're a physician, I need you to help me. I need you to advise me on what we do to repeal and replace Obamacare, and what do we do instead?
Well, ultimately, all of Obamacare needs to be repealed and replaced. Now, we might be careful. We ought to be careful about how we do it and how we phase it out, because as you know, Tim, 31 states, fortunately not Missouri, did expand Medicaid under Obamacare. So we need to work out a transition that won't be overly disruptive. Even here in Missouri, Medicaid growth eats up every penny of general revenue growth, so we don't have money for things like roads and schools, higher ed, bridges. But we need to repeal Obamacare and then replace it with a more market-based, more consumer-oriented system. Certainly expanding health savings accounts, allowing insurance to be sold across state lines, making insurance more portable by fixing the tax treatment of medical expenses and insurance expenses. We can do much better. Obamacare has been a nightmare. People see skyrocketing premiums. At the same time, they're getting less for their money. They have higher deductibles, higher copays, fewer doctors to see. But we can do a lot. Ultimately, though, at the state level, the way to get Medicaid under control is for the federal government to block grant the program back to the states and let the states fix it.
Yes.
I guarantee you, Senator Sater, Sue Allen, and I could probably fix Medicaid, the Missouri Medicaid system, in about 6 months. But the federal government doesn't let us do it. Particularly, the Obama administration hasn't let us do it.
Well, hey, Doc, it's exciting times, isn't it? Because the opportunity is there, the tools are there, the people are there finally, and I think you'll all have a very busy year, and I'm going to predict a successful one.
This is an exciting year. It's a historic year, and God willing, it will be a successful year.
Hey, Bob, if folks want to follow you, I think you're on Twitter.
That's right, at Bob Onder Mo.
And if they want to contact, if they want to look you up, get a hold of you for state senate type stuff, website or email address they can go to?
Yeah. The email would be bob.onder@senate.mo.gov. bob.onder@senate.mo.gov.
Great. Get a hold of Bob Onder. He's got great information he always puts out, and true public servant right here in our backyard. Hey, Bob, have a great weekend with the family and rest up. I know you're going to need it. Busy times ahead.
We sure will. You too, Tim.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was Senator Dr. Bob Onder from St. Charles County. Hey, we've got